Hello! I have a super fun video for you all today featuring a handful of some easy and accessible, but pretty and colorful and whimsical DIY projects. Got accessories all the way to bag charms, and we'll be using some cute materials such as buttons, which are all definitely having a moment online right now. But I hope you find some inspiration in this video and maybe end up trying some of the projects yourself. But it was really fun to channel my creativity in this sort of way. I love trying my hand at all sorts of things and various creative projects, but I've been wanting to get a lot craftier and grow and explore more in that sort of way, which is why I'm so excited about today's sponsor, Craftsy. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative. Craftsy offers a huge variety of creative classes, ranging from sewing and knitting to even cake decorating and baking. Through instructional videos taught by Craftsy's friendly and talented experts, you'll be guided through each technique with step-by-step demonstration, support, and community. There are over 2,000 classes and 20 categories to choose from that are super easy to follow along with. I thoroughly enjoyed the class Character Design by Gerardo Escamilla. It was informative, well-paced, and engaging, and it really got my creativity flowing. I had a lot of fun practicing sketching and drawing different little silly characters. The first 1,000 of you to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. This is valid for new members only, so go ahead and click that link and get started today. And thank you so much to Craftsy for sponsoring. Now let's get back to the video and get started on these DIY projects. For our first project, we have a bunch of cute button hair clips, but to start I fixed a few that I already had that were broken. The gem one I made myself, and the swan one was one I have had for a really long time, but I just took a little bit of super glue. I will rotate between the two super glues you see on screen, but I will put the text on screen now so you can look it up yourself. But I applied 2 little dots to each piece, and then I set them to the side to dry, and then I began working on my button hair clips. I got these little metal hair clips from Michael's, and I opened them up and just started arranging buttons and playing around to get an idea of different layouts I wanted to try. Once I knew what I wanted, I applied a strip of super glue and began working quickly because the glue does dry fairly quick. I gently placed the buttons on and made sure they were secure, and I wiggled them around just to make sure that they were firmly attached. Whenever I would finish a clip, I would just put it to the side and let it dry and then move on to the next one. As you can see, I'm just pulling from this pile I have in front of me and playing around, trying out different sizes, different colors to see what I like, mixing different textures together. Again, once I decide on an order and how I want to place the buttons, I then apply a strip of super glue and began putting the buttons on. I work quickly but focus and meticulously and make sure that each button is firmly secured before moving on to the next one, and then when everything is applied, I center everything and make sure I like where everything sits before the glue dries. It helps to have some kind of instrument. I'm using a color pencil here to align the buttons and get things straight because you don't want to touch the glue directly with your fingers, so it helps to just have something to move around additionally. I repeat the same process over and over again essentially until all the clips are covered, taking my time arranging the buttons in a color and pattern that I like before applying the glue. For some of the clips, I wanted to keep things simple, but for other ones, I wanted to stack on layers and experiment with how many things I could glue onto one clip. Since I wanted the buttons underneath to be visible, I started grabbing sizes that were smaller and began applying those on top of the buttons. I used the color pencil as much as I possibly could to help me adjust certain pieces, but I inevitably did get glue on my fingers, so just be careful when you're doing this project. But I continued layering on as many colors and buttons as I liked until I felt satisfied with that bottom layer of buttons. Then once I felt like that was dried and settled, I then took some beads that I had from a previous DIY project and began adding those. I used a combination of these little tiny stars and hearts, and I think it turned out really cute. It was just the extra little touch that I think this clip needed. Once I added a few of those, I then added a couple more buttons just to balance things out, and I really like how it turned out, all the different shades of pink and purple. There were a few hair clips I made off screen. I thought I would surprise you with those, but all in all the process was exactly the same, a very repetitive, take your time kind of process, but very easy to do. I'm really satisfied with how everything turned out. You'll have to comment below and let me know which one is your favorite. But here they are styled. I just put them all on my head all at once, and I think it looks really cute like that actually. But I really like how all of them turned out. I think they're all super cute. I love the variety of colors and sizes. All in all, I'm gonna have a fun time styling these. But now it is time for the next project. For my next project, we are decorating one of my handbags and we are making bag charms. And I've had this idea for a while. I was really excited to try, and I knew it was fate when I thrifted a bigger version of this little purse I already had. And so I chose that bag that I just thrifted to decorate. I took the bag charms off of the little bag and added it to the bigger one, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the smaller one yet, but a different project for a different day. But as you can see on screen, I have a variety of materials from chains and little clips and carabiners to hooks and wire and different tools. I also have a variety of beads and little charms. I also have a bunch of these little metal circles that you can use pliers or your fingers to bend and open and connect to different things, different charms, and these were extremely useful during all of my projects. All you need to do is pinch the pliers to close the metal circle, and then your charm will stay securely in place. I repeated this process over and over again on this little metal anklet, bracelet, sort of chain I had. I started small with these little butterfly charms, and then I worked my way up to some larger ones. Since the larger butterflies were beads, I wasn't able to attach them to the circles in the same way, so what I did was take little pieces of wire and I wrapped it around the butterfly and then connected it to a circle. This was very easy to do. All I did was thread the wire through the bead and then I tied it and connected it. When the wire was securely attached to the butterfly, I then took one of the little metal circles and I attached that to the wire. Essentially what I did was transform the bead into a charm using the wire in the metal circle, and then once I finished that, I then attached it to the bracelet using some pliers. The only other tool you might need are some wire cutters. But outside of that, these projects are very simple and very easy to do with your own hands. I then progressed by taking the wire and creating a bracelet shape and then threading a bunch of green colored beads on top of the wire. I added some butterflies as well, and I didn't really go with a particular pattern, I just placed the colors where I felt like it. I also added some colorful little star beads I had as well, and I just continued filling out the bracelet until I was satisfied and I covered the wire completely. Once I finished applying beads to the wire, I then tied the ends together into a knot and then used my fingers and pliers to secure the bracelet closed. And once I was sure that the bracelet was firmly secure, I then attached it to a little carabiner hook and then applied that to the purse as well. I absolutely loved the bag at this point with the two charms that I had made, but I wanted to continue it a bit further and get a little bit more creative. I continued playing around and experimenting with some of the beads and wire and just started applying things to the bag freely and just was trying things out. I eventually started to get into sort of a creative flow and was just playing around, and I brought in some other materials like chains. Everything I made I kind of centered and anchored around that carabiner clip, so it kept everything still and focused while I experimented. As I worked on the bag, I just kind of weighed it out visually and decided where it needed more balance, more color, and that sort of thing, and I just continued making different little various charms to add to it until I felt satisfied. I really love how this charm turned out. In particular, the colors are so beautiful, so fruity and colorful and fun, really perfect for summertime. And then I finished off the ends with these green little stars, and I think it's just the perfect touch. It's so cute and whimsical. But even though the charms vary in shape and size and all of that, the process is very similar. You just take wire, string, a bracelet, whatever, and make sure everything is secure with pliers, that nothing is going to come loose. And I just finished up the final details on this little bag charm, and then I applied it to the purse with the rest of them. This one is so adorable. I don't know what it is. It's just one of my favorites easily from the whole video. But I began adding it to the purse, as I mentioned, and then I just started to assess the weight of the bag again, deciding where I wanted to add extra little details and finishing touches. I decided that I was not done yet and I wanted to make some more charms for the bag. But since I had so much color and shine and texture going on, I wanted to add a little bit of variety and help balance that out, and I grabbed these neutral wooded beads. For this particular charm, I wanted something that was just sort of neutral and organic, similar to the materials I was working with, so I just opted for a sort of long oval sort of shape. Once I was finished and covered the wire sufficiently, I then tied everything and firmly secured it with the pliers, and then I attached it to my purse with all the other bag charms. I wasn't sure which side I wanted it on at first, so I played around and tried it on each side, and I ended up going with the right side of the bag. At this point, I felt like I was finished with the bag charms, but I knew I wanted to add just a few little more touches here and there, so I grabbed this silver sparkly ribbon and tied a bow on one side of the bag. I trimmed off any loose little fray pieces of fabric here and there, and I made sure everything looked pretty, pristine, and well balanced. And speaking of balance, I thought the other side could use another ribbon, so I took this sparkly spider one I had and I did the same thing. Trimmed off any loose fabric pieces, I played around with the proportions and made sure that everything was balanced. And once I finished that, I knew there was still another thing that I wanted to do yet, and that was add all of these little patches to the bag. I have actually been hoarding these for quite some time, and I haven't been sure what I wanted to use them for, and I wanted to be sure of it when I did go to use them, and I thought they would be absolutely perfect for this project, so I decided to finally give it a go. As you can see, I am applying a little bit of super glue across the entire back of the patch, and then just pressing it onto the bag using my fingers and also the color pencil to make sure everything is firm and secure. Time will tell if this holds up, but it does seem pretty secure, so we will see. But I took my time with each patch and made any necessary adjustments using my color pencil as needed, and I repeated this process with each patch until I was finished. I am so happy with how this bag turned out. There's honestly more I want to do to it still. I'm thinking about painting my initials in that little middle oval piece and maybe, I don't know, just painting across the bag in general, but I think it's really cute for now. I wanted to keep the focus on the bag charms for now, although I did, add a few patches here and there. But I think the results are so fun. I love that you can just take a bunch of random stuff that you have and throw it together and create something beautiful like this. I think all the colors go so well together. I love all the different textures and pops of color and all the sparkle happening. It's so cute. Very fairy core. All around, I am very happy with how this project turned out. I'm already getting ideas, like I said, little embellishments here and there I can do more of in the future. But I'm really satisfied with the results. I would say this project was a huge success. Next, I have a couple pairs of earrings that I made with some buttons. To start, I began organizing the buttons by pairs and was just going through some different color options and deciding which ones I wanted to turn into earrings. For one pair, I decided on these sparkly silver ones. I thought they were really interesting and I love the cool pattern and texture. To transform them into earrings, I took a piece of wire and threaded it through the button, and then I looped it shut and connected it to these little earring hooks. I, of course, used my pliers to make sure everything was secure, that the hook was not going to detach from the button, and I repeated the same exact process with each button until I finished the complete set. This process was very similar to making the different bag charms, but instead of attaching it to the little silver circles, you're attaching it to earring bags instead. You can really apply this concept to pretty much any item. I just went with buttons because I thrifted a bunch recently. But here are those silver button earrings styled and on. I think they turned out really pretty. They look so elegant and dainty, and you can't really see my kind of messy wire work. It's not really noticeable up close or from a distance, and really I think the focus is on that button detail. I love how these turned out, but I also made another pair off camera with these larger white buttons. I love the mod feeling to them. They feel very 1960s, very retro, super cute, and they actually inspired my eye makeup look for this little filming session here. I really wanted to lean into the retro vibes with my makeup, and I think it suits the earrings perfectly. I think they complement each other well, but really cute. I can't wait to style these more in the future. I love how each pair turned out, but you'll have to let me know which one is your favorite, the white buttons or silver buttons. We are finally wrapping things up with our final project, and essentially it is one gigantic charm necklace slash long bag chain slash bag charm. Kind of similar to how I made the bracelets toward the beginning of this video, I wanted to take that concept but apply it to a necklace. My intention was being able to style it a variety of ways. I can, of course, style it as a necklace, but I also wanted the ability to be able to drape it across a variety of purses, and I just really started experimenting and seeing what worked. I alternated between a lot of different materials, from little hooks and clasps to charms and beads. I also used the wire quite often to create little charms to hang off of the necklace. I of course then used those little metal circles from before to attach everything to the chain. I repeated this process over and over and over again until the necklace was eventually filled up. I would lay it down across the table, just look at it, get an idea of where I wanted to place certain things, and balance out the necklace. You can see all of the materials I used on screen, but it was a really repetitive process of using the different circles and wire and materials to attach all the little details to the chain. I really started to get into this process, and I set aside a lot of time to dedicate to it, so just so you know, this did take me hours to work on. You can obviously make your own charms as busy or as minimalist as you would like, but in my case, I wanted something that was extremely eclectic. I wanted it to look like a collection of goods a fairy had accumulated. All around, I wanted this particular charm necklace to have a very whimsical, found object kind of feeling. So in order to do that, I combined a lot of materials and various objects to give it that eclectic but curated kind of look. I took old charms I had that I was holding on to. I took a lot of the beads and materials that we were working with before, and I would repeat the process of just making little charms and laying them out, arranging the necklace to see which way I liked it, where I wanted to apply certain details and things. The longer I went at it, the more the process flowed, and I was beginning to get a feel and a balance and movement toward what I wanted to create for this necklace. I started adding funkier little pieces, things with shine and texture to them, things that were metallic and gem-like. I would again repeat the process of connecting things to the little metal circles, connecting things to wire, using my pliers to then connect that to the overall chain. And I continued this process until the necklace just gradually filled up, and as far as colors and patterns and deciding where to place things, I would just kind of eyeball it and decide where to go as I observed it. I wanted it to be a very creative, organic, free-flowing, intuitive kind of process, so I didn't really overthink it. I just went in wherever it felt right. But when creating your own bag charms, it's of course up to you if you would like to incorporate some sort of specific color scheme or specific pattern. My camera did die while I was working on this, so I did not film the final touches, but I figured I would just let it be a surprise in the final reveal. And I ended up using some safety pins to style it across a summer tote bag that I have. And I am so in love with the final results. It is so cute. It's exactly what I had in my head, and I'm really glad it turned out well. It has that fairy trinket sort of look that I was trying to create, and all around I think this is the perfect summer bag. I'm so excited to wear it this summer. It's given me some ideas for future projects as well, working with this material and connecting charms to it, that sort of thing. I love it styled this way, but I'm excited to play around with it and try it out on different purses and things. I'm so happy with the results. So that concludes this video. You have to let me know which project was your favorite. Please let me know if you're going to try any of them yourself. I appreciate you so much if you watch this entire video. Liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that stuff really helps out the channel. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!